You just mentioned Wayward Sons. Obviously, in my mind, that's your other big band, your big project.
Yeah.
Tell me how Wayward Sons came about.
Well, it was kind of really, again, a little bit by default. I'd been out playing a lot of gigs with other bands. I'd joined Gun for a little while, and that was great fun for a couple of years. And then I joined Fastway with Fast Eddie Clark because my dear departed friend and agent and manager Steve Strange at the time asked me to join that band, and I went all over the world with Eddie playing gigs, Download and Loud Park in Japan and all sorts of places, celebrating his music. And then I joined Dio's Disciples, which was one of my biggest sort of privileges I've ever had as a professional musician, actually. And I went all over the world with those guys singing songs by Black Sabbath, Rainbow, and Ronnie James Dio, which was an absolutely extraordinary experience because, I'm a massive Ronnie James Dio fan. But really, I kind of reached the point. I remember when it was we played Bloodstock with Dio's Disciples, and it was a great gig, and we were singing all the classics, Man on the Silver Mountain and all the big tunes. And I came off the stage and I just thought, you know what, I'm done with this. I've had a great time. It's been an absolute privilege, but what I'm really doing is it's a bit like karaoke. All I'm really doing is
Oh,
singing
yeah.
somebody else's song. And I thought to myself, I've got a whole catalogue of my own songs, and I've got all this history. And as much as I've loved doing this, I need to do something else. And so, and as luck would have it, weirdly, I kind of, I guess about maybe 6 months later, because I was producing a lot of bands at the time. I'd done a lot of production. I've produced about 30 records as a record producer over my life, and I was getting a lot of work as a record producer. But I got a phone call from Frontiers Music. They're a little Italian label, and those guys there said, "Look, we would love you to put something together. What do you fancy doing?" And after a bit of chat and a bit of to and fro in, I said, "Look, I want to do something independent, and I want to do something with a completely fresh name." And so I put Wayward Sons together, just gathered all the guys together. I mean, I know Nick Wastel, the bass player, because he was in Chrome Molly, a Leicester band, years ago, and Little Angels opened for Chrome Molly a number of times. So I knew Nick very well. I met Sam, the great Sam Wood. He was in a band called the Trees and Kings in Leeds, and I was producing those guys, and I saw his talent immediately when I was working with them. So I asked him to join the band, and then Phil Martini was the last piece in the jigsaw. He had been playing with the Down and Outs, which is Joe Elliott's band outside of Def Leppard, and I'd seen him play at an open air concert in London, and yeah, it all came together really quickly and randomly. We had the first rehearsal we ever had together. I'd brought a load of songs, and by the time we left those rehearsals, which I think was we had 3 days together, half of the first album was written. I think we had 7 or 8 songs pretty much done and dusted. It was an amazing experience actually, and so it really made me think. It's about the people. You've got to find the right people. You've got to find the right impetus. You've got to be driven. You've got to have a vision. You've got to have an idea. And I did have all of those things, but what I really needed was the support of my bandmates, and those guys have been nothing but supportive of me as an artist and as a songwriter, and that's why we've been able to kind of do what we've been able to do. So I've got them to thank for it, really.
Yeah. And the name Wayward Sons, I always imagined it was just from the song Kicking Up Dust, obviously that lyric there, but there is a tie-in with the Kansas song as well. Is that right?
Absolutely, it is. I mean, and just to put it into context, the first time I ever went to a rock club as a paying as a paying punter, if you like, I was about 14, maybe 15 years old in Scarborough, and I there was a nightclub there called Victoria's Nightclub in Scarborough, and it was a very famous rock club. People used to come from all over the northeast of England to go to it and I think they used to hold it on a Tuesday night, bizarrely, which was kind of a bit weird. But anyway, I ended up first time I ever went there. I had my heart in my mouth. But I was 6 foot taller when I was 15, so which is the same height I am now, and so I looked older than I was really, and I sort of wandered in, gave me £2.50 to the girl at the desk, and wandered up these steep steps, and the first song they were playing was "Carry On My Wayward Son," and by Kansas, and I got it. I'd never heard, I hadn't heard that song until that point. For whatever reason, it had never crossed my ears, and it just blew me away. And I really got the lyric. I thought this whole concept of this itinerant wanderer, someone who's determined to achieve things, and it might be slightly sort of left of center, but has got this vision an optimism about the world and all the rest of it, and it completely got me. And that's why I put that reference into Kicking Up Dust, because I loved that concept. And so when it came round to naming the band, I couldn't think of another title that I wanted to use for the band. It just made so much sense to me because it summed up. It was like a secular thing, really. It was like returning back to the start again, really, about how I got into rock and roll in lots of ways, and that song is very important to me. So yes, that's essentially why.
Yeah, yeah, because I didn't realize I heard a joke saying, "Oh, Toby's obviously a Kansas fan." I went, "Oh no, it'd be for Kicking Up Dust," but it's both. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's just
So,
I just
what's happening with Wayward Sons? You've had to postpone some gigs due to your back issue. How is your back, Toby? Let's tell everybody what's happening.
Well, it's all a bit boring. It's just a long-term injury that I sort of unfortunately suffered 25 years ago, and it's always been a bit of a problem. But as I've got older, and I've and inevitably, you don't recover from things as quick. It's just got worse and worse and worse. And certainly when I was going back to the lockdowns, I got into running. I mean, I've always been a long distance runner. I've always loved running. It's been
All right.
the only sport I've had any interest in at all, really. And through the lockdown, I got myself up to sort of doing 10Ks every three days and 5Ks every day and this sort of thing. And so I was really fit and very, very together. And I wasn't having any problems at all. But one day I stepped off a curb and something went clunk. And it put me on my back. And so I ended up going to a physiotherapist. And since then, it's never really recovered again. So we don't really know what's wrong with me at the moment. I think it's most likely a prolapsed disc, and I've that we should probably might it's most likely to need some form of surgery at
Yeah,
some
I
point.
thought so, yeah.
So it's just one of those, really. I mean, I had a bad episode 6 weeks ago, which literally my legs went from under me and I couldn't stand up, and ended up at the doctors, of course, and with specialists. And really, I've just been spending the last 6 weeks lying down and trying to recover, And so inevitably, I couldn't hold a guitar around my neck. I couldn't stand up and contemplate the idea of doing any gigs, and so we had to move the dates, which were due to happen late October, early November, into April next year. And I've just got my fingers crossed that everything will be done and dusted by then. I mean, I have been told that it's a 6 month recovery period, from any major back injury if everything goes according to plan. So I'm just hoping by the time I get to April that I'm well enough to be able to sort of just get back on those stages to play those shows.
Well, fingers crossed. They go ahead, Toby. And after that, with regards to Wayward Sons, got more ideas for album and more tour.
Don't really know at the moment. I mean, it's a little bit of a grey area, and for a number of reasons. I mean, I've just put out obviously my solo music at the moment, for the Lookout stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, defo.
I've got some concentration on that. I mean, that's been a long time coming, that record, and I need to spend a bit of time on that. Wayward Sons has always been a very fluid, very relaxed affair. I said to the guys from day one when we put the band together, don't get your feet too comfortably under the table because I don't know how long I want to do this. I want to have some fun with it, and I want us all to be relaxed. I mean, Phil Martini, he's in Spear of Destiny. He's in a number of other bands. He plays with Joe Elliott. Sam's in Black Star Riders and probably every other band in the world at the moment. And Nick's got a full-time job as a merchandiser. He makes rock and roll merchandise. So, we've all got other things going on. When we come together and we play together, it's great fun and we enjoy it, but it won't be under duress. We do this because we want to do it. And at the moment, I'll be honest with you, I can't see another Wayward Sons in the near future. But never say never. It would have to be, to me, it would have to be, I've got 10 songs that I cannot not record. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it's got to be. It has to be driven by the material. It has to be driven by the art. It can't be driven by the commerce because, frankly, Wayward Sons, we've never really made any money out of it. It's just been an absolute labor of love because we just love being around each other and love playing that music. So, but it's got to be about the music. It's got to be because we believe that the songs are good enough.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, fingers crossed, because I love Wayward Sons as nearly as much as I did Little Angels. So I
Oh,
could do
thank
with some
you.
more Wayward Sons in my life, that's for sure. Now, I think I said at the top of the show, been a fan of yours since Little Angels, but actually, as I did some research for this, and you've touched on a few of these things that I didn't actually know you did, so I'm not sure I can call myself a fan. So you mentioned about being in Fastway, Fast Eddie Clarke, Dio's Disciples, which I think I knew, but I had no idea you fronted Gun for a little while. and
Mm.
there was some EPs you went out, guitar, bass, and drums. Out of all
Right.
the stuff, that sort of stuff that's not Little Angels and Wayward Sons, what was your favourite bit?
Well, they all take on a kind of different complexion. That's what's so great about it. I've never been an artist that wants to sit around on one thing. I'm a bit of a workaholic. I like to have several things happening all at the same time because one feeds the other. You know, when you get bored of one thing, you can go over here to do something else. And it's a kind of it's a juggling act for me. And so throughout the years, whenever I've felt compelled to do something, I go where that work takes me. I don't have any real solid plan. So the EPs and the sort of solo work I've done has been driven by this desire to make the music, and I've always let the music do the I've always let the music determine where that then goes. You know, so with the guitar, bass, and drums period, that was songs that were knocking around that I'd had for a long time, stuff that I'd written in the moment, stuff I'd written for other people that hadn't been used, that I felt hadn't been given any an airing. So it was a way of gathering material together and just issuing it. Now sometimes that can be problematic because a lot of the songs on those guitar, bass, and drums EPs, a lot of it wasn't really particularly well recorded because I just didn't have the money or didn't have access to studios or whatever it was, and so quite a lot of the stuff I wish I'd done a better job on. But what I am pleased about is that in terms of a body of work, I think it does give quite a good insight into me as a composer. Because I've always worn my heart on my sleeve. What you see is what you get, and when I write about stuff, even though it's not specifically always about me or always about stuff that I've been through, it tends to be driven by a kind of feeling, like where I am in my own head at that time, what the world means to me, everything that's going on around me, and so it's compelled by that. Because I think you've got a duty as an artist. I certainly feel this, that you have a sort of duty to report on your life, what's going on around you. It's too important just to be frivolous as far as I'm concerned. I want these songs to have a point. And even though not everyone will agree with it, that isn't the point. If it starts a conversation, if it can help somebody, if someone can recognize something within those lyrics and those songs that can then give them some kind of insight, then that to me is my job done. And it's not like I'm trying to pretend I'm some sort of great auteur or some big philosopher. I'm not. What I mean is I'm just a normal guy, but we all suffer from the same things.
Is that your motivation about your new stuff then? Because you're back with Toby and the whole truth. You've got Lookout out now. Is that what you're trying to say on this first volume?
Absolutely, it is. I mean, I don't make any secret of the fact that I've suffered from a lot of mental health issues over my life, which some of which I didn't really realize I was suffering from, which goes way back to being very badly bullied at school and having to suffer the trauma of that stuff. I didn't realize how much it had affected me through all of my adult life, and so I kind of reached a sort of crisis point a few years ago where I had to face it, and I got psychotherapy. A psychotherapist went into therapy, and it's the best thing I've ever done. And it really cleared away a lot of the sort of darkness and the cobwebs and the things I've been suffering from. And I realized that it was a hidden problem, and I sort of, I think I also realized how many other people that I know that are friends of mine that had suffered from very similar things and had gone through similar traumas, that they felt embarrassed about or didn't know how to deal with or felt whether they were unworthy to deal with or they felt ashamed by it, because that's half the problem with going through that sort of stuff is you often feel ashamed when it really hasn't been your fault. So it was a huge revelation for me to sort of be able to deal with that and to come out the other end of it. And so when I started thinking about making new music, the experience of having to face myself and deal with some of these dark elements and things I'd suffered from, that was the compelling reason to create the music, because as I started to write the music, I was coming out at the other end, and I'd come out of that tunnel and I could see the light, and I was coming back into the light. And so really this whole collection of songs, because there are 20 of them, I wrote and recorded 20 songs, and that's why we're putting them out in three chunks. This is the first volume, volume one. but those 20 songs represent an aspect or a very specific element of my recovery from suffering from these things. And so it feels very important to me, even though other people might not get that, and I don't expect people to sort of fall over themselves to understand it, because at the end of the day, it is music, and it's it's the interpretation of that music's in the ears of the listener. It shouldn't be down to me to sort of hand it on a plate. But the reality is this music's being compelled um, and given reason as a way of me recovering, to talk about recovery, to talk openly about suffering from mental health issues, and to say it's okay. Lots of people suffering from this stuff, and there shouldn't be any stigma. We should be able to talk about it because you come out stronger. And I certainly feel a completely different person than I did 3 or 4 years ago. And it's like I say, it's the best thing I ever did. And so this music is a celebration, if you like, of how to recover from those kinds of things. And I want to talk about it because I know certainly a lot of men. I think men aren't very good at dealing with our mental health struggles. I think we tend to sort of push it into the background. I'm not saying that women, of course, don't suffer. Of course they do, but I think women have a far more instinctive, naturalistic way of dealing with these things. They talk a lot more than we do, I think, and certainly amongst their friends. And so I feel it's important. And yes, so the first volume's out, and there will be two more volumes following in the next sort of 6 to 8 months.
And it's a direct to fans project, isn't it? So how can anybody look out volume one?
Well, yes, it's what we call a D2C project, so there's no record label involved. I am the record label. I work with a guy called Rob Town, who's my partner in this business, and I've done it because my fans are so loyal, and I wanted to make sure that they got the music in the way I wanted them to get it. And you can get it by simply visiting my website, tobyjepsonofficial.com, and go to my web store, and it can be purchased direct to you. And we send it directly ourselves. We have a little fulfillment business that we do all of our own stuff. And so far, so good. I'm very pleased with the way it's gone, and I'm very pleased with the reaction. And so, as far as I'm concerned, again, like I say, the music's the only thing that matters. And I'm pretty certain I've done the best. I've written some of the best songs I've ever written in my life, and this is, I think, it's one of the best recordings I've ever done in my life. And so, I have to feel passionate about that, and I have to feel focused about that, and I just want to make sure the fans have a good experience listening to it.
Of this volume one, which one is your favourite song? Mine's the last one. I really like a bit of cowboy music. That's really got a bit of country feel for me. But what's
It's
your
really
favourite song?
It's really interesting you say that about the one turns out the light, because a lot of people have mentioned, oh, it's country, but not for one moment did I ever consider that to be any
No?
form of kind of country music at all. No, but I don't mind. It's absolutely fine. How like I say, the sort of concept of the songs is in the ears of the listener. That's what's so interesting about this whole thing. That song was written in response really to my love of the way that Paul McCartney used to write those small ditties in on the Beatles albums, like Blackbird or Her Majesty, that sort of thing. And I used to love those little interlude songs that lasted a minute and a half. And also the Beach Boys are a big influence on me. And so I wanted to combine all those things together. I think the thing that probably gives it the kind of country feel is the banjo. I think that's
Yeah.
probably what it
And
is.
it is just the sound. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what is your favourite one off volume one?
Well, I think for me, what will it take is my favorite, because that plays into a period of music that I grew up with. My dad was a big soul fan, and so I was brought up around Joe Text and all those fantastic sort of Stax artists, and American soul artists, as well as Northern soul. So I think there's quite a lot of that stuff in there. I've been longing to do something like this for for quite some time that isn't specifically rock driven, but as far as I'm concerned, eclecticism is, it shouldn't matter what instruments you use. I mean, I was listening to the first Queen album, the remaster of the first Queen album today, and
I
goodness
saw
me,
that. Yeah.
it's incredible how eclectic that record is. It goes it runs the whole gamut of progressive rock through to sort of acoustic music and sort of hard rock. And why should we put a barrier around this stuff just because you use a trumpet on something? It doesn't mean to say that you're all of a sudden you're a brass band. It never seemed to affect the Beatles. And I often think about Aerosmith. You think about the amount of
Yeah.
instrumentation that the Aerosmith records use. So as far as I'm concerned, the music again had to dictate the direction, and I took each of these songs on this record and allowed the music to tell me what it needed to be. And if it needed a banjo, it got a banjo.
Very eclectic sounding volume, definitely. If anybody listened to it and didn't know you, they would never, I don't think they'd put you down as hard rock. They're just musician. I think it just says musician to me. Is that what was that
You know
your
what?
aim?
That is the biggest compliment you could pay me. I just wanted this to be a music record. And I look at it like David Bowie. I mean, David Bowie is my favorite artist of all time. And you listen to any of those great Bowie records, you go back to see something like Hunky Dory, which I think is the greatest record ever recorded. And it's not a rock album at all. It's full of pianos and strings and horns and and gentle music. But then you go on to the Spiders from Mars record, and it's a full-blown blooded rock record. But then you go on to the Toy album, which was released, the reimagining of his Toy record, and that could be rock, it's soul, it's pop, it's all sorts of things, and that's why I love it because you can't put your finger on where it is, and because he was just a pure musician, and I think that's what I feel I want to gravitate towards going into the future. I just want people to look at me as a musician and as a songwriter. I don't want to be regarded as one thing or another.
So, 3 volumes is going to be. Are the other 2 volumes in the can already, ready to go?
We're working on them. We went into the studio for 2 weeks and recorded 20 songs, which was no mean feat. I mean, it's a lot of work. But I left the studio with backing tracks arrangements, blah blah blah, and with a fully intending to bring the files back to my little home studio and carry on working here. Um, and as I've been progressing the songs, what's cool about it is that you rediscover them. Some of the songs I haven't listened to now for several months. And I put up a couple of days ago just to sort of check out where I am with them, and I was really pleasantly surprised by it. I thought, oh, actually, that's really cool. I've forgotten about that one. There are a couple that I know need a bit of reconstructing, etc. So, but it was always going to be like this. I wanted to sort of get as much recorded as I possibly could, and then revisit it and look at how we could then need to structure it all. So currently, I'm about halfway through making the second album at the moment. There's 7 songs going to go on that one, and I've got the bass player Chris Blandon coming down this Friday actually to revisit some bass parts. And I've got Dave Kemp coming down the following week. He's coming down to replay some keyboard bits and pieces. We're replaying the guitars in January on a couple. I'm doing all the vocals in the interim period. So it's kind of, it's just a sort of, it's a process. And what I've decided to do with this record in its entirety is I'm not prepared to release anything until I'm absolutely 100% convinced it's what I want it to be. So I don't care how long that takes. If I'm not gonna put a timeline on it. If this second one comes out in March, it's coming out in March. I'm hoping it'll come out sometime in February. But if I have to push it back another month because I haven't finished something, I will. But the good news is I believe in all of the songs. I'm very happy with everything, and it's just a question of making sure that I can do justice to them all. Yeah.
And like volume 1, you're going to do merch bundles and that because there's lots of ways you can get it. You can just do a download, can't you? Or you can get physical. Plus, there's posters and T-shirts. Am I right? I can't remember what it was. You tell us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got like a deluxe version, which is kind of like a box set. The idea is that you buy the volume one as a deluxe version with the box, and then you collect the rest of the albums as they come along and put them into the box, sort of thing. So you can buy the whole thing. So you can buy all of the 3 albums up front as a deluxe edition, and then you just got to wait until those albums turn up, or you can buy them as what we would call a vanilla version, which is just the simple album standalone on its own. So you might only want to buy the first one and not buy the other two. But within all of that, we've got a whole collection of free giveaways. You get all the downloads for free. There's booklets, obviously, with the lyrics in. There is posters. We're going to do some screen prints at the end of the whole campaign. Plus, we're going to release it on vinyl. We're going to put what I think are the best 12 songs on a vinyl version. And we're also going to do things like, we've done lots of, there are vocal introductions. I'm giving away free lyric sheets. And also, right at the end of it all, there's an extra disc for those that have bought the deluxe edition that you get all of the demos as well. Because I demoed all of the songs at home, just acoustic and voice. But it might be that some people prefer those demos, because I did them to a pretty high standard. So, yeah, there's going to be 40 pieces of music, lots of free giveaways, lots of stuff to collect. And I think that's the way I like to do it these days. I don't want it just to be like you release the record, you get two weeks out of it, and then it's long gone. I want this to be a journey for the fans as well as it's a journey for me.
So late winter, early spring for volume one, volume three. Any ideas?
Well,
I'm
volume
just
three.
looking ahead.
No, I like that, Darren. I like that a lot. No, I mean, I think again, volume three. I would like to see that probably the latest it emerges, probably the beginning of the summer next year. So we've got plenty of time for this music to be absorbed. And the great thing about this is I've got 20 songs I can dip back into and we can use in different ways. It doesn't mean to say that we get to the end of the campaign that I might take a song off this first record and put that as a focus track. I don't know. We're just sort of working it out as we go along, and that's what's cool about it. And we're getting such a good buzz from it that it seems to be working.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love this volume one. It's great. I've been playing it since I got it last week before last actually. Really like it.
Thank you.
What was I going to say? I was going to ask you, remind everybody where they can get it because it's on your web store, isn't it?
Yeah, the web store. I mean, if you go to my web page, which is tobyjepsonofficial.com, and just head down to the web store, it's all there. It's all very straightforward. There's a number of tiers, different ways you can buy it. And as soon as you purchase it, you get it as a digital free download as well. So yes, it's lots of reasons to enjoy it. I
And
hope.
while they're there, I know there's other stuff they can get, aren't they? Because you advertise out on the socials something else, a bootleg live album or something, was
Yeah,
it?
that's free. I mean, that's a giveaway. I mean, I've realized over the years, since I've been involved in selling stuff online and doing it through my own endeavors, that I don't want to keep going back to everyone's well constantly and asking people to buy stuff all the time. But this is a real relationship I'm building up here, and I've done a lot of recording over my life, and so we've given a lot of stuff away, and I'm quite happy to do that. And I went on tour in the spring of this year and did just an acoustic tour really, and sang for the very first time two songs which are on the Lookout albums coming that are coming. I did them live for the first time. Plus, I did a load of Little Angel stuff and I did a load of solo stuff. And we recorded pretty much every show. And I listened back to quite a few of the shows. And the one that really stood out for me was a gig we did in Blackpool at the Waterloo Bar and Grill there, and it was just a great gig. And it's not perfect by any means. I'm not. It's not the best voice I've ever had in my head. It's not the greatest playing I've ever done. But there's just a really nice vibe between me and Dave, who accompanies me on those shows. And it really felt cool, and I really liked it. And I just said to Rob, why don't we just give this away? I don't want people having to buy this. And so we've just put together a digital free download for fans, and it seems to be going down great. And I've done it a couple of other times, and I will continue to do it whenever I've got stuff that I feel is worthy of people's ears. Then we will give it away again.
And anybody who's not following you on socials, you're on, I know you're on Facebook because following you on Facebook. Do you do all the others, X and TikTok and all that?
No, I refuse to do X. I won't support Elon Musk's campaign. To be honest, I don't have any interest in that man or what he stands for whatsoever. So I refuse to support him. So that's I'm not I don't I'm not on X. But we are on. I mean, recently I've just joined the Blue Sky thing, which seems to be a lot more of a sort of happier space than Twitter ever was anyway. So just joined that. But mainly my world operates around Facebook and Instagram. And also YouTube. I've got a nice YouTube channel up there, which is easy to find. Toby Jepson Official. So it's all pretty singing and dancing. We're even though I'm a bit of a Luddite, I've got to say, Darren, Rob keeps me straight. My technical partner
Good.
keeps me online. Keeps me working. Keeps me knowing what I'm doing.
Brilliant. And I will be putting the links to all those in the description. So if anybody's not following you, they can just look in the description and they can click on the link and start following you.
Much
So
appreciated.
I want we've spent a lot of time, mate. I know time is precious. I want you to get off and have a rest. Couple of questions I just want to ask you though. As a lot of people who know me know, I'm a big fan of Stone Dead Festival. I've been volunteering working there since the second one, and I've been to every one. I was there as a punter on 2018. And I totally missed that you were there this year. It was only as you were leaving. I saw you leaving because I work on the gate where artists and press come in and out. And you were just going. I was like, oh no, I missed you. Are you going to be there next year? Is my question.
Oh, I love Stone Down. I love Chris and all the guys. I think they've done such a brilliant job. And of course, Wayward Sons played the Friday
Yeah,
night party one
yeah.
night, but the one year, and we performed. I think on the third, I think the third one, or maybe the second one. I can't
About
remember.
that. Yeah, yeah. I was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm a big supporter of Chris and everything that the team has done. You know, you yourself included. It's an incredible it's a success story, and long may it continue. And the reason why it is because it's so friendly. It's not huge. It treats the punters with respect. There's no messing about. You know, you know what you're going to get. It's a wonderfully inclusive festival, and and every I wish every festival was like that. And I've played so many festivals in my life over the years, all over the world. And Stone Dead is a stand. It's the same as Steelhouse. Steelhouse and yourselves stand out like a sore thumb about how to do it these days. The boutique festival where everyone feels like they can belong. It's an incredible achievement. And yes, so I, without a doubt, if we're not playing there, if I'm not playing there, next year I will definitely be there as a punter.
Definitely. Okay, cool. Well, I will definitely see you there. So one last question before we get summer and Stone Dead Festival. We've got Christmas. Have you got any plans for Christmas, Toby? Is there any? Do you have any anything you do over Christmas at the Jepson household?
I love Christmas. I'm not a religious man at all, but I do love the feeling of the end of the year. I always have done. I appreciate the passing of the seasons. I'm sort of quite old-fashioned in that sense, really, but I love being around family. I love being around, the whole feeling of Christmas. It doesn't have to be anything overly commercial. I'm not a big into the commerciality of it all at all. It's always been relatively modest, but I do like having the tree up, and I like the movies. It's a great opportunity to sit and watch some of my favorite films, frankly, you know. So I do love it, and I just love it as a way of ending the year and feeling relaxed and looking forward to the future. I'm not a bar humbug guy at all, and I always sort of I always bristle when people say, "Oh, I can't stand New Year's." It's always so, oh, it's so dim. The winter's so boring and it's so cold. I don't feel like that at all. I think you've got to embrace every moment that you live your life, and it's so precious that we're all alive and we live in such luxury in this country. We really do, irrespective of what people may think. The reality is we're all in relatively most of us, of course, not everybody, but most of us are in a warm, comfortable situation, more than an awful lot of people around the world, and I appreciate that. And my mum always used to say that you shouldn't squander these things. You should celebrate them and give thanks for them, and I think that's true. Um, and so yes, I always look forward to Christmas, and this year is of no exception whatsoever.
Brilliant. Well, I hope you and Mrs. Jepson have a great Christmas and everybody else in your family.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining us here on Morning Rock Out. I've loved every minute of it. Thank you very much, Toby.
Much appreciated, and a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone who's listening or watching this. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to an old rocker talk too much, probably.
Not at all, Toby. Thank you very much, mate.
Take care. Thank you.